Hello everyone, this is Bhumika Mohan. In this video, I'm going to talk about inheritance with respect to Java. Contents of this video. First, I'm going to talk about meaning of inheritance in Java, the need of inheritance in Java, terms used in inheritance. Then I'm going to explain an example program, types of inheritance, advantages of inheritance, and finally disadvantages of inheritance. Meaning of inheritance in Java. Inheritance is an important pillar of OOPS, that is object-oriented programming. It is the mechanism in Java by which one class is allowed to inherit features, fields, and methods of another class. When you inherit from an existing class, you can reuse methods and fields of the parent class. Moreover, you can add new methods and fields in your current class also. Inheritance represents the ISA relationship, which is also known as a parent-child relationship. Next, let's talk about the need of inheritance in Java. Code reusability. The code written in the superclass is common to all subclasses. Child classes can directly use the parent class code. Method overriding. Method overriding is achievable only through inheritance. It is one of the ways by which Java achieves runtime polymorphism. Abstraction. The concept of abstract, where we do not have to provide all details, is achieved through inheritance. Abstraction only shows functionality to the user. These show that inheritance in Java is very useful. Then let's talk about important terms used in Java inheritance. First, it's a class. Class is a set of objects which shares common characteristics, behavior, and common properties or attributes. Class is not a real world entity. It is just a template or blueprint or prototype from which objects are created. Superclass or parent class. The class whose features are inherited is known as a superclass or a base class or a parent class. Subclass or child class. The class that inherits the other class is known as a subclass or a derived class, extended class, or it is also called as child class. The subclass can add its own fields and methods in addition to the superclass fields and methods. Reusability. Inheritance supports the concept of reusability. That is, when we want to create a new class and there is already a class that includes some of the code that we want, we can derive a new class from the existing class. By doing this, we are reusing the fields and methods of the existing class. Now, let's talk about an example. The example which we are seeing here is a program related to inheritance. Here, the class employee is the base class, then the class engineer is the derived class that extends the employee class, and class test is the driver class to run the program. Next, let's talk about another example. In this program, when an object of mountain bike class is created, a copy of all methods and fields of the superclass acquires memory in this object. That is why by using the object of the subclass, we can also access the members of a superclass. Note, during inheritance, only the object of the superclass is created, not the only the object of the subclass is created, not the superclass. This is the another part of the program. The derived class and the driver class are mentioned here. Now, let's talk about the types of inheritance in Java. Below are the different types of inheritance which are supported by Java. Single inheritance, multi-level inheritance, hierarchical inheritance, multiple inheritance, and hybrid inheritance. First, let's talk about single inheritance. In single inheritance, subclasses inherit the features of one superclass. In image below, class A serves as a base class for the derived class B. Next, let's talk about multi-level inheritance. A multi-level inheritance, a derived class will be inheriting a base class, and as well as the derived class also acts as the base class for other classes. In the below image, class A serves as a base class for the derived class B, which in turn serves as a base class for the derived class C. In Java, a class cannot directly access the grandparents' members. Here's the example of multi-level inheritance. Next, let's talk about hierarchical inheritance. In hierarchical inheritance, one class serves as a superclass, that is base class, for more than one subclass. In the below image, classes serves as a base class for the derived class B, C, and D. Next comes the multiple inheritance, which is done through interfaces. In multiple inheritances, one class can have more than one superclass and inherited features from all parent classes. Please note that Java does not support multiple inheritances with classes. In Java, we can achieve multiple inheritances only through interfaces. In the image below, class C is derived from interface A and B. Now comes hybrid inheritance. It is a mix of two or more of the above types of inheritance. Since Java doesn't support multiple inheritance with classes, hybrid inheritance involving multiple inheritance is also not possible with classes. In Java, we can achieve hybrid inheritance only through interfaces if we want to involve multiple inheritance to implement hybrid inheritance. However, it is important to note that hybrid inheritance does not necessarily require the use of multiple inheritance exclusively. It can be achieved through a combination of multi-level inheritance and hierarchical inheritance with classes, hierarchical and single inheritance with classes. Therefore, it is indeed possible to implement hybrid inheritance using classes alone without relying on multiple inheritance type. The diagram of the hybrid inheritance is given here. Next, let's talk about the advantages of inheritance in Java. Code reusability. Inheritance allows for code reuse and reduces the amount of code that needs to be written. The subclass can reuse the properties and methods of the superclass, reducing duplication of code. Abstraction. Inheritance allows for the creation of abstract classes that define a common interface for a group of related classes. This promotes abstraction and encapsulation, making the code easier to maintain and extend. Class hierarchy. Inheritance allows for the creation of a class hierarchy, which can be used to model real world objects and their relationships. Polymorphism. Inheritance allows for polymorphism, which is the ability of an object to take on multiple forms. Subclasses can override the methods of the superclass, which allows them to change their behavior in different ways. Lastly, let's talk about the disadvantages of inheritance in Java. Complexity. Inheritance can make the code more complex and harder to understand. This is especially true if the inheritance hierarchy is deep or if multiple inheritances is used. Tight coupling. Inheritance creates a tight coupling between the superclass and subclass, making it difficult to make changes to this superclass without affecting the subclass. There are advantages and disadvantages which is of using inheritance in Java. Taking in consideration all of this, we have to use inheritance effectively. Thank you.